In this next part, we're going to use the trace text button here in order to output that same message. So let's go back to our actions, and I've pinned my script so it makes sure that I don't go off of that particular script. Anyway, we need to create a event listener for the button, so we'll find that button, which happens to be the trace text underscore btn. So that will put in this dot trace text underscore btn dot add event listener. Then we need a mouse event dot click, then comma, and the name of the function, my trace. Now notice that when we instantiate our function with a very simple frame instantiation, we have our quotation, our parentheses after that particular function name. That's very similar to if we do something like this dot stop. So that's how you can see that that is a function name right there. That's actually this dot stop would be a method, but same sort of thing. If I put just stop, you'll notice that it has the quotation marks. When I run a function as a result of an event listener, I don't use the quotation, or I don't use the parentheses in here. It just has the name of the function, so a little bit different. We're also going to notice when we try and run this what happens and how it's different. So let's go ahead and test this with Control Test Movie. You'll see it does my output, and now when I click on Trace Text, it actually has come up with an error. So it says argument count mismatch on this particular my trace. Expected 0 got 1. So the question is, what do we have going on? Well, when we have the event listener for a function, or when we use an event listener to run a function, then where the event is coming from is always passed back to the function as a variable. And so that's why most of the functions that you will see, especially when you have events other than simple frame events, will be having some sort of variable inside them. A common variable you might see is event and then colon mouse event. So let's see what happens now. Now we have another problem. It says argument count mismatch on the my trace. Expected 1 got 0. And that's because the first one doesn't have any arguments. So I might try putting in an argument such as null, just so that we have something in there. And you'll see it actually output this time. So that's one way that we can go ahead and run functions. If we try and run a function with maybe a different type of event in there, we might see, oops, it cannot convert the type of mouse event to the other type of event we sent it. So we do have to be careful about what type of event that we are using to pass to that function. Now I sent it a stage event. If I send it null, then it means that it's really a nothing event, so it's not rendering an error, which is kind of cool. So that's one way that you can do run a simple event or a simple function that might be a mouse event function or something from a frame event if you really need to. Now this is not going to be what we do often, because often we're going to be using events. Now it's very important to see what is actually passed to that event. So what I'm going to do next here is just trace the event itself. Trace event. Now when we trace this event, you'll see it traced null, but if I click on trace text or the button, you'll see it traces all this information, which is pretty amazing. Now we can also trace the target of the event, which you'll see, whoops, has nothing in one of them. And if I click on the trace text, you'll see that it's going to still give me nothing. So I've rendered an error because of that null. Go ahead and save your work and we'll go on.